Welcome to Agri Talk. How's it going?
Good. How are you doing, Mike, today?
This is Duane Rigsby. I'm Mike Thompson. Welcome to the show. This time around, we are going to, I guess, do a little retrospective or review of some shows.
Yeah, I guess you could say a little review of some past episodes of importance, I guess, and of how we did some other events, I guess.
Okay.
So we're going to start one, I guess, right away, or not.
No?
But until then, we're having maybe a little technical difficulty. But Mike, tell me what we have going on for this. We've got three clips. One of them is going to be actually my director at the OSU South Centers. I think he's going to cover some of our program
aquaculture.
areas.
Aquaculture.
Yeah, he's
which is different than hydroponics. Hydroponics is growing plants in water.
Yep.
Aquaculture is growing plants in water, but you run that water through a fish tank, which gives that fish tank, or gives the water its nutrients to feed the plants, which is kind of a cool idea.
That is a pretty hot topic, I guess, in the world of farming or agriculture, if you will, is being able to grow your food year-round, and maybe in a greenhouse or something. That typically is where a aquaponics system would come from. It'll be an inside thing, and you'll have a fish tank, and it'll have a variety of fish, or maybe usually the same kind of fish, but depending on how big a tank you have.
Now, could you do that at home?
And you could, yeah.
And what kind of a building, greenhouse could you build?
Oh, you wouldn't necessarily even need that. You could do it in your garage, as long as it depends on your heat source for plants to grow. So if you're raising something that's cold-natured, say broccoli, cauliflower, because it grows in cold weather or cooler weather, not like a tomato.
Right.
You could raise broccoli, if you would, almost year-round. And again, we have some demonstrations at our center that can show you the little plastic, like 55-gallon drums that you can buy for, I don't know, $20 or something. What we do is we'll cut them cut them in half. We'll just say we'll cut one drum in half, and we'll make a little saddle to where that drum will set in, and then there'll be another. It'll be stacked on top of each other, so there'll be about a foot or two difference in height, and then the other one will be filled with water and a like a lava rock or something to that effect, and that's where the plant will sit. But the half a tank below, or you can just use another barrel, will be where fish could be. And then you need a little pump. That would be.
Do you have to clean out your fish tank, or is that against the idea of the whole thing?
No, you would have to not clean it out necessarily, but we use the backside of the fish, the droppings, if you would, to fertilize the plant.
Right.
But eventually, yes, you have to clean out the tank, but in some cases you have to watch. Cleaning out the tank will raise the ammonia levels in different ways, which will then kill the plant above.
Oh.
So you don't want to clean on a regular basis. You don't want too clean of a tank, but yet you don't want too dirty of a tank. Because when you do clean it, it should be when the plants are not there. So.
Oh, okay.
So I think we're ready for a clip.
And what are some of the areas that you can go to these workshops in?
Okay. We are organized along 4 major areas, and you would really think of them as specializations in the college and within extension. And the first area that I could talk a little bit about would be aquaculture. And in our college, we have the critical mass and the leadership for aquaculture research and development in Ohio. And the program is based on very applied research work that looks at things that a lot of farmers are trying on their farms, but we do that in a way to help potential new farmers answer questions about the production, the management, the technical side, as well as the economics and marketing of getting into fish farming. And we focus a lot on yellow perch is the species that we spend the most time on. We follow that up with work in bluegill production as well as freshwater prawn. And we have just a very beginning, there's a lot of interest and a lot of market openings for largemouth bass. And there's a huge ethnic market that's very much interested in largemouth bass on the East Coast in the major cities of New York City and up and down the East Coast as a live market. And so we're beginning to transition a little bit of our effort toward largemouth bass. But traditionally we focused primarily on yellow perch, and we do, as I say, all aspects. A big emphasis to date has been the genetic improvement of yellow perch. And just like any farm-raised animal, whether it be beef or pork or broilers, we're interested in production efficiency. So a big part of the way that you can increase the efficiency is to select the better genetics. So we have invested a lot of research trials and work on selecting for the fastest growing and the best feed conversion of our yellow perch. And we've had a fair amount of success to where we've improved somewhere between 35 and 40% growth rates in our improved genetics as a result of our program relative to what we've started with and what a lot of traditional fish farmers are used.
So when you say live market, that is live fish going to the market, that's not on ice.
Right, Luke. What we are a little less familiar with here, although any fisherman will tell you no fish tastes better than when you catch it and clean it immediately and get it into the frying pan, that it's never improves with age. And this is the idea. A lot of immigrants with Asian roots really prefer to see the fish live and buy the fish live, that they know it's very fresh, and they like to take that home and prepare it in their own home and after seeing it live. So we don't have so many fish markets here in our region that would have live fish tanks that you can see fish swimming and you can pick out, I'll take that one and maybe that one. But in a lot of the large cities, in specialized markets, that is a potential. And that's where we see these bluegill and the largemouth bass especially.
That was Tom Worley talking about different ethnic markets in aquaculture and how that a person growing fish or farming for fish can supply. So,
Well, I guess would you farm for the fish and the plants?
Yeah, you could do both if you're in aquaponics. Yes, meaning and that's a good question, because we are actually currently we have a program at the center called Boot Camp, and what it is, there is about 20 people, I believe, 25 maybe, and what they want to do is see if they can get into the market of being able to sell fish or raise fish. So I'm not going to be a farmer, which means I'm not going to do grain harvest.
I don't want to buy the tractors and all that
Yeah, I'm not
stuff.
going to buy the tractor stuff, but I've got a pond. What can I do with a pond to make me money? Okay, so you go through this class, this program, if you would, and basically we give you everything, a business plan, a whole 9 yards, tell you all the good stories and the bad stories, and then you decide at the end, well, that's not really for me. So it kind of saves you in a way, so that if you...
So at least you're making an informed decision.
Yes, very, very informed. So you can say, yeah, no, I can't sink that much money in it, or I can't sink that much time. Lots of different ways. And there's some that at the end, they have a business started.
So would you be doing this more, I know you're probably at South Centers, geared more towards the business side of things? Or
We are.
just the home guy, like that does the garden? Could I raise the garden out of this type of a setup where I have some fish and I got some broccoli or whatever?
Sure, you could do that as well. Just because going through the program at the end, you may say, well, it's not a business for me, but it's going to be a hobby. And yes, there's been several come out of the classes with that.
What kind of fish and what kind of plants could you use? Probably not carrots, right?
No, probably not carrots as much. But this this past winter, we grew in our greenhouse just as a little trial. We just had a little tub, if you would, that's about 8 inches or 10 inches deep, water, and then on top of it we use these little white float beds, just like you would plant seeds in to get it started. So literally our plant started from seed, and we grew tomatoes, cucumbers, lettuce.
So cucumbers have to hang outside, or
No, they hung
because this
right
is
on
water, right?
Yeah, but it was on the plant. It grew right on the plant. It was a cucumber that was more of a vine, not a vine. Excuse me,
Okay.
not necessarily a vine. And then what we did was we kind of also built a little trellis for it.
Okay,
So
So
just
it's not
because,
in the water.
right, it's not laying in the water.
right.
Yep.
And then what kind of fish would you use?
Fish could vary, but typically you'll use like non-invasive, or you wouldn't want to use bass maybe or something because they get aggressive at each other. So you would want to use something that's a little less timid, maybe a perch, a bluegill, maybe tilapia.
Is that something
things
you
like
would
that.
eat, I guess?
Yeah,
You
afterward
wouldn't do
you
your
could eat.
goldfish that way, would you?
Yeah, no, you wouldn't. Yeah, you wouldn't necessarily. I don't think you would put goldfish in it, but there is. Yeah, once they get up to a larger stage, you could turn that into food for you as you get ready to put in new fish. Yeah, so serves two purposes, I guess you could.
Yeah. Well, the prepper in me,
Yeah.
you know.
Oh,
thinks
absolutely.
a
It's an
sustainable
excellent.
thing.
Yeah, it's an excellent idea. I mean, I don't know how many pounds of tomatoes and peppers we had last year, but it was a good bit off of an area that was really no bigger than this table.
So do the fish reproduce, or do you have
no.
to buy new fish to put it in?
Yeah,
there?
we just put new fish in.
Okay.
We don't go through that whole cycle because typically your plants will be done producing, and then when you put new plants in, you may either put new fish in, or maybe you have another system that you're prepping to be, for the plants to go in for the next cycle. So you may already, but no, we don't go through and raise our own fish to put in them. But you could, I guess, have over on the other side a place to grow your fish up to one size and then put them in. Yeah, because you have to recognize that as the fish grow, they're going to give off different levels of manure, nitrogen, if you would,
Right.
and then versus smaller ones. And then your tank's only so big, and you would have to put a whole bunch of little ones in to get the amount of nitrogen or material that you need to support those plants. And then those fish are, by default, they may never grow real big because they don't have the room.
Right.
So you would want to keep pulling fish out, but you don't want to take out too many because then it'll change that ammonia level in water and things. And it's really a science when it boils down to it. Really is.
Yeah, just the whole ratio of fish to plants and
Yep.
your water source and
Absolutely.
everything. So we're going to take a break now, and maybe we'll answer the question, can we do this with cattle?
Ooh,
So
interesting.
see you at the other side of the break. Welcome back to Agri Talk. I'm Mike Thompson. I'm here with Duane Rigsby, and we were talking about aquaculture. And I was just had the question: can we do this with cows? And
Can we do cows with aquaponics, where we're putting fish and turning? I never really thought about it, or maybe somebody's out there maybe doing it, but there's definitely produce out the backside of the cow too.
yeah. Well, anyway, our next clip is about cattle production, right?
Cattle production, what you're doing right now, what a farmer probably is doing now, getting ready for the season, having calves and what hay and all that stuff you should be prepared to have for the winter season. So we have our local person, John Grimes, that'll tell us a little bit about that right now.
Year it's been relatively cool for late summer, early fall. Jacket weather, we've had some of that recently, and
you're right.
and if you drive around the countryside, you kind of see some of the signs of it. You look really close, you can see some trees starting to turn just a little bit, but the more obvious proof would be out in the fields. You'll see cornfields starting to turn yellow and beans starting to turn yellow. And we'll talk about harvest season here in a minute, but I think the first picture we've got is of a cow with a baby calf. There's statistics that show that roughly 15% of the nation's calves are born in the fall. And this is a great time of year. You think of the weather we've had. We had some rain and things like that, but compare the weather conditions today to what we see, say, in February, March, and April.
Right.
And those are big months in the spring that we see calves born. And this is a great environment. It's warmer. The ground's solid. It's not cold. And you saw the picture where the cow's licking off the calves, and that's important. Yeah, so that's really one of the most fascinating things you can see on a farm is that whole process from the cow to the calf and how that calf has the instinct to get up and start to nurse. I've seen it thousands of times, but it's still amazing how Mother Nature works.
Instantly,
Yeah, so it's kind of a transition time. We're having a little bit of rebirth and regeneration going on, but it's also harvest time. And I think we've got a picture of silage harvest, and this is not a lot of the corn crop gets harvested for silage, but I know dairy farmers, probably more so than beef farmers, utilize silage. And in the old traditional way where we saw the big tall upright silos on farms, you don't see those quite as many. Some people use what they call bunkers, either concrete sided ones or earthen bunkers where they dig a hole in the ground and put
some of them use a tube, right? Or
yeah,
maybe they don't want to.
and that's exactly what we do. We put our silage in a it looks like a bread loaf. I mean, a long white tube.
Like a big loaf of bread.
And there's advantages and disadvantages each. I know the upright silos is more maintenance, probably more things mechanically that can go wrong.
Okay, welcome back. And talking about cattle and silage. Now, that's one thing. I'm a non-farmer.
Well,
I'm not
understand
a lot of this
non-farmer as of now. I did farm in a little bit in the background, not a lot, not like John by any means.
Right. And when he's talking about silage and silos, a long time ago I thought, well, that's just for storage.
Right.
But does the grain or corn change its properties when it's in the silo?
It does. It turns it more into, it ferments itself, if you would, and it also breaks down some of the outside, the shell and the hull, and then it also, at the same time, it also helps break down the part of the plant, of the corn plant as well, and just turns it into more of a better feed for a cow to eat. Sort of like taking it to the mill and grinding it up. It does the grinding itself, if you would, and kind of mixes all that different nutrients together. The corn, the plant, the green matter goes together, kind of like us with a salad, if you would. So
how would you just feed that during the wintertime?
Yes, that's silage is, yes, you typically will feed it during the wintertime. Now, a lot of times.
Do they like it?
Oh, I think they do, yes. Because it's kind of sweet, if you would, in some cases, because you may also take that silage and maybe you mix a little bit of mineral with it, so as you feed it, you may mix some minerals with it just to give the cow the extra boost if it needs. And then a lot of times you'll see silages fed for dairy cows, not just beef cows. Typically, if it's a beef cow, a lot of times during the wintertime, what they will have is they get fed is hay and then grain, just for the beef part, for that end gold of a steak or whatever, versus that silage is more of just a stabilized food for you, because you don't want that milk cow to be real fat or real skinny. It's just sort of like us eating maybe a good salad every day, but that's what, that salad and hay, that'll hold them.
Don't just eat that, they'll have a mixture of things.
Yeah, they'll have a mixture of things.
And when you say it ferments, it doesn't make it alcohol content.
No, it's not completely to that form at all.
We like that stuff.
Yeah, that's going into the backwoods, a different kind of mesh. But that's what it does. It just ferments just enough to break down some of the shell and some of that things just to make it a
Soften
little bit,
things up.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's our next clip?
Our next
tree farm.
Yeah, we're talking about trees, and we have Dave Apsley. He's a specialist. I think he's been on the show a couple of times, and we're talking about trees and how a local person that owns woods, if you're
Trying
a
to make a
local
decision
landowner,
whether
yeah,
to
make an informed
cut it.
decision, and who maybe you should contact.
Okay.
So here's Dave, and actually I think myself on it.
Timber harvesting, it's a great topic to talk about. There's lots of people asking questions about it. I'm sure there's a ton of people ask you questions about it. And we're in this area, rural Appalachia, southern Ohio. There's lots of woods, lots of trees, and probably one of the biggest industries around, I would say.
It is. It's one of the bigger employers.
Yeah. And even though you probably don't realize that, I mean, there's probably hundreds of little mom and pop cutting loggers, I would say, around. And then some of these, you'll watch on TV, you see these great big TV logging shows and things like that, and that would be great, but you just don't see that around here.
But it is commonplace in southern Ohio. It's a big part of our economy. Without that, if you really think about what other employment opportunities, there wouldn't be many. So it's a renewable resource.
Yep.
It's owned by woodland owners like me and other folks who own that, and it's a great way to bring in some income. So it's one of those things you want to do your homework and do it right. So we'll spend some time talking about that.
Well, we're going to talk about timber harvesting. We've got a good topic. We got some bunch of slides and pictures to go by. So here we go. So Dave, we got the first little thing Dave talks about is stop and think and get assistance. So tell us about what we're talking about getting assistance, Dave.
Well, the big deal is timber harvesting is not something you do every day. And it's something that most woodland owners don't really have a lot of information. They just, a lot of times, make a quick decision, and then I get the call. And more often than not, folks aren't happy with the way it turned out because they didn't do their homework up front. So a good example is of somebody that did it right. I got an email shortly after doing a program on selling timber, and a woodland owner gave me some, said, hey, it worked great. I had a forester involved. We decided what we were going to harvest by talking it through, and the forester helped me do it. I got some bids in. I actually got a knock on the door and got an offer for about $5,000 initially for my timber. But after going through the whole process, I ended up getting $18,000.
And that's what you're talking about. You got an email about all that stuff.
I've gotten an email. I've talked to a lot of woodland owners, but more often I get the call that says, I had a timber sale, I didn't get paid what I thought it was going to be worth, what do I do? And I don't like the way it looks. And at that point, I can't help. So
right, it's a little too late.
Do it up front.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's important.
So all about this, we got a slide that does a little bit of some graphs here about why do Ohioans own forest lands, okay?
And when you look at that graph, you spend a little time, all the way over to the right, the second or third, I think, set of bars from the right are those that own their land for timber production. So most people, when you ask them why do you own your woodlands, they don't say timber production. They say something else. They like to live in the country and be in the woods. They like to hunt. They just like the beauty of it. And a lot of people say, I don't want to sell timber. But when we look at that next slide, a lot of folks do sell timber.
Right.
So the numbers don't add up. You ask them, do they want to sell timber, and is that part of the reason for owning woodlands? They say no. But then when you look at the data, a lot more harvest than say they're going to harvest.
Right.
So they don't equal out. And so what I like to do is talk about why that is. Well, why do people harvest timber? It's all about money mostly.
It's all about money. You're right.
They need income.
It's all about money. And you notice that slide had a lot of what I see a lot of is firewood sales,
right.
even, and a lot of times you may see that after somebody does all the logging, right? Is that?
Or they're just using it they're cutting the trees for use on their own farm.
Oh yeah.
For wood, like I have a wood stove and I cut trees for firewood, but I usually pick the trees that are going to help other trees grow instead of cutting cut.
Right.
But the reality of it is people oftentimes don't know what their timber for. They take them off on the door, somebody offers some money, and that's a lot of money, and I can use it.
Right.
Or
in our next picture, that's exactly what Dave's talking about is trees. Maybe certain trees are more valuable, right?
Right. And really, the big point of that slide is a lot of people make the decision to cut timber without knowing what it's worth.
Or second.
So what else do you sell that you don't have an idea what it's worth? If you're going to
Okay, so making the decision to cut trees is kind of difficult. And
It is.
I guess you would have to have somebody that knows, I don't know if it's the guy from the sawmill come out and like look at your trees, because some of them may be no good for anything except, like I said, firewood. Other things may be good enough for furniture or veneers.
Right. Right.
Depending on how many knots and stuff is on it.
And that's the thing. If you have a timber stand that you would like to get cut or select cut, you really need to get in contact with Dave or get in contact with a forester, not just a logger, because the logger, he wants the trees, he wants to cut everything, and ultimately
he'll cut everything and he'll make the decision, well, this is going to go here and that's going to go there.
Exactly. And 9 times out of 10, they just say, I'm going to give you this price for all of it. And a lot of times, the end user, the owner, will get much less that way in the long run, unless you come in with a forester and say, no, that tree right there is really worth a whole lot more.
Yeah, that's a $3,000 tree.
Right.
And that's $200.
Right. Yep. So there's a lot of pluses and minuses in timber harvesting. Select cut everything, and you got to think about the future of who's going to own that. Who's going to own that land next?
This is a slow turnaround crop.
It is. Yeah, and if it's something that you're going to pass down to generation to generation, maybe you want to think about select cutting, so your next generation has some ways to cut trees next.
So that's 20, 30, 50 years down the road.
Yeah.
Well, if you enjoy these type of programs, Agri Talk is the one you want to watch every month here on RGCA TV 17. So stay tuned, and we'll be back next month. And thanks for watching.
Yep.